Warm welcome again, to our Leaders Exchange, roundtable. We've been conducting this for the last couple of months, and we've seen great exchange, great learning, across board from leaders like yourselves. We're happy that all of you are here, and we hope that each of us will be able to learn from one another here. Before I, get into this discussion, I just want to mention that this is a closed room discussion. You can really be vocal about what you say here. It wouldn't be attributed to an individual associated with organization, but your contributions as an individual, we will kind of, see where we can, take our permission and have them on our social platforms and stuff like that, right? So to begin with, let's start with a round of introduction. I'll start with mine. I'm Avinash. I'm the co-founder of Global Talent Exchange. We started this company about a couple of years back. The idea was to look at Indian talent across the globe. This was conceived in 2007 when I first did my Return to India show, in 2000 in the US. We took companies from India to the US and brought back a lot of good talent to India, and that's how the story started. And we saw, given the pandemic today, given the new norm today, with the geographic boundaries literally becoming null and void, we saw there's a great opportunity for us to open up the, global talent pool for the opportunities in India. And we saw that there's no other platform doing this at this point in time to enable companies in India to look at global talent, in a structured way, right? And that's how the story began. I come with about 20 plus years of experience in the talent acquisition solutioning space. A humble beginning with Naukri.com, when Naukri was, just about starting in 2002. Had the fortune of working with the founder, Sanjeev and Hitesh. And ever since then, I've kind of been in this space, launched two job boards, Shine, and then earlier, prior to that, ClickJobs, which is a part of the Matrimony group. So that's a little bit about me. I think we'll go around the table. If you can also, introduce yourself, tell us the role that you play within the organization, how you impact the TA and the business a little bit. We'll start with Jackson, probably.
Great. Thank you, Avinash. Good morning, all. It's a pleasure being here, and good to see you all. I'm Jackson. I've been with a company called Marvell, which is in the semiconductor space, for about 2.5 years now. I manage the India recruiting. When I say India, it's between three locations: Bangalore, Hyderabad, and Pune. All right. Marvell as an organization has been very small 2 years back, right? But then today, we've been growing up to a larger scale to compete with organizations like Intel, Qualcomm, and so on and so forth, right? Apart from my TA manager role here, I also take care of the global TA operations, right? When I say, I guess there's a lot of these processes and a lot of these activities, transactional activities, mainly in the TA space, which keeps happening where we do not know why it's happening, right? It's just meant to happen. So I'm taking up that role to probably try and see where can we redefine, right? So that's all about me. I can probably hand it over. I can call out the next person. Probably Sindhu, you want to go next?
Augustus.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Augustus, go ahead. I can go after you.
Thank you, Sindhu. All right. So call me Augie. That's how I'm known. All right. Yes, working for IBM, and I actually started off my career about 25 years ago in sales and marketing and some and a short stint in consulting. And then I saw that there was a big gap between what HR was trying to deliver for me in the business versus what my clients wanted. So I told my boss, hey, I want to move over to the other side. to see how I can improve some of those things in terms of the understanding of the marketplace. And I stayed there and found that my passion was people, and done various roles in IBM, and prior to that also worked across different geographies. And over the last 3 years, I've been focused on the future of work and new ways of working. And there is patent pending on that, but I will share some of the extracts as we go forward. And I'm also actively working with the government and trade bodies on public policy to build good labor ecosystem, and was actively involved in the recently published new labor codes. On the other hand, I'm a strong champion of women and workplace diversity. I am chairperson of the Women's Empowerment and Inclusiveness Expert Committee for the Bangalore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and also serve on various other organizations like NASSCOMs and CII. So that's briefly about me, and truly delighted to be here this morning. And thank you so much. And look forward to learning a lot, hearing a lot, and going back enriched after 11 today. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Augustus. Happy to have you here. Sindhu will.
Thank you. Thank you, Avinash and Sharnita. I think it's a great opportunity to connect with such an, honored to be here with great people on the panel. Little about me. I'm a clinical psychologist by education. Did that primarily to deep dive on human behavior. That always intrigued me 20 years ago when I graduated. Honestly, there wasn't, at least people didn't know what is the scope for psychologists. But my first job was as a psychometrician, and things were just coming up then, where the psychometrician or psychologists were getting hired to develop assessment tools. I was lucky enough to be there at the right time, right place. I just graduated, got into this company, a startup for 5 years as a psychometrician, as an organizational psychologist. From there, moved to Infosys, to the BPO division when there were just 3,000 people. And when I moved out as head of OD, we were 20,000 people. And that's when an opportunity clicked with Facebook to lead their learning and development for India. And I was with them for 3 years. And then, of course, a lot of things were changing for India, for Facebook. And that's when I had the opportunity to move to Blue Yonder, which is a supply chain organization. We were called JDS Software earlier. The name change happened just before COVID hit us. So there I was leading talent acquisition, talent development, and diversity and inclusion. I was also the presiding officer for the POSH committee. Then, OD was always this first love, organization development. And I felt that I wasn't doing enough of that. That's when the opportunity with Novartis came up to be the global talent and OD and inclusion partner, based out of Hyderabad, but a global resource. So just started there a month ago. That's a little about me. And I'm very excited to be here also because talent has been a passion, not necessarily talent acquisition alone, talent overall, right? The whole life cycle of talent. So here to learn as much as I can contribute, but as Augustus said, to really go back enriched and educated by the end of the hour and a half. Yeah.
Thank you, Sindhu. Thank you. Deepayan?
Hey, morning, guys. I think from experience point of view, I'm the youngest here. But yeah, so I'm an engineer turned a recruiter. I started my career with a consulting firm, been with a couple of startups, Zomato, Common Flow, Quicker, and currently I'm part of Disney Plus Hotstar. I lead the talent acquisition for the tech and the product piece for India and China, and also supporting all the executive hiring for DSS. DSS is nothing but Disney streaming services like Hulu, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus across the globe. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepayan. Hi, Gopi, welcome. We'll start with. Over to you, Gopi.
Yeah, good. Excited to be here. Excited to be among the panel members. Looking forward to learn a little bit about myself. My name is Gopinath. Feel free to call me Gopi. I work with Verizon. I've been with Verizon for the last 9 years. For those of you probably not aware of Verizon, we're a Fortune 15 company spread around Chennai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore, roughly around 7,000 people in India. I head the entity, part of the board. So all the HR functions fall under me. We have a couple of other entities as well on the business front. And we recently also acquired a company called BlueJeans out of Bangalore. So I think it's been an exciting run over the last 9-10 years. Different facets of HR, different geographies, different challenges. I think I've been in the industry for 25 years now. A large part of that in Verizon over the last 10 years, 9+10 years. I think I'm looking forward. I've been right across all streams. Passionate about D&I, like Augustus said. Moved the company into the top 10 in the Working Mother Media. In the Jobs for Her, bagged all the four large category companies, 4 awards in the large category companies. Just not at work, outside of work as well. Work with the local fishermen community because I live by the beach. That's where I got introduced to diversity, to be honest, 15 years back when we were playing Frisbee. So we looked up at some of the kids who were standing there who probably gone into other ways of drinking and ruining their lives. And I'm happy to see that close to around 150 fishermen kids today travel across the world, rub shoulders with people in US, Australia, and other things. Their lives are transformed because we let them in. I think rather than saying that, our lives got transformed in a lot of ways because of them, and the passion they brought into the sport. I think I'm a fisherman by heart. Outside of work, I travel across the world, try and go fishing. Love sports. That's briefly about me, based out of Chennai.
Welcome, Gopi. Excellent, brilliant.
Very touching, Sun. And by the way, I used to be a big fan of BlueJeans. I just wanted to let you.
Thank you so much. I guess we made a wise investment.
Anu Matthew, welcome. In fact, Anu and me go a long way back. We work for the same parent company, InfoEdge. Welcome, Anu. Quick intro.
Thanks so much, Avinash. Good morning, everybody. It's my pleasure to be part of this forum. And thanks so much, Sharnita, for inviting. And a little bit about myself. I have over just about 20 years of experience. I am primarily a recruiter, though I've handled a lot of other roles in HR operations. So I started off with consulting, recruiting consulting, and then I moved to Naukri and the search practice of Naukri Quadrangle, and I set that up from scratch, and I grew it, and then I moved to corporate. Worked in an organization in Trivandrum because I originally I'm from Kerala, so I had to be there for some time, and so I took an assignment there. Worked with Accenture, and then for the last 8 years with Cerner Corporation in India, I lead the talent acquisition. I also, for India, and I also managed the Australia, Middle East, APAC responsibility for a while, and now I've consolidated myself to manage employer branding and recruiting, marketing, and acquisition for India. In addition to my job, as I said, I have done operations, partnering, etc. But I always love to spot talent and always love to be called as a recruiter and find jobs for others. And which is outside of my work also, wherever I have opportunities and scope, it is about finding jobs for others. So that is, that's probably it's a calling, but that's what I love to be known as. And I'm also a researcher at XLRI. I am working on my thesis proposal. I'm working on careers. I am studying how interruptions in careers and its impact on individuals, and also how organizations look at interruptions, specifically voluntary interruptions. I'm also interested in learning how careers evolve, how careers can be sustained, and defining the boundaries of the career. So those are my areas of interest, based out of Bangalore. And personally, I love to write and spend a lot of time with children. So I'm part of a religious organization, and I run the spiritual school there. So during my free time, I have my family to look after, definitely my children, and then I have the children from the community because of the school, and also the writing and the research that I do. So it is quote unquote a fully loaded recruiter and a passionate career specialist, if I were to call myself. So that's about me.
Awesome. Welcome. Shweta?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Because I can hear myself, so I was feeling a little awkward. So good morning. Please bear with me. I've just returned from a travel, so I'm still getting back to the senses, considering there's so much happening around. So hi, I'm Shweta, and I'm associated currently with MasterCard. My current role is of people and people business partner, which externally we call as human resources business partner. Been with the organization for more than 5.5 years. As far as my career journey is concerned, I started with General Electric. I was a campus hire. Actually started with the business, but after playing a people manager role, I was in operations for good 3 years. I moved into human resources, and at that point of time, it was more generalist. So I kind of have got an exposure into talent acquisition, HR operations, learning and development. Spent around 7 years, then moved to Mercer, Hewitt, and which was acquired by Aon, and then moved to Pune. So all this was in Delhi and Gurgaon, and moved to Pune in 2011. Started with WNS, and then Vodafone, and now with MasterCard. Primarily, my role has been into HRBP, but as part of movements and my interest areas, I have also taken up talent management, learning and development. But my heart still lies with HRBP, because probably I started my career as operations, and I find being in HRBP more action-packed and more thrilling. Yes, I do drive a lot of diversity initiatives for the organization, not only in MasterCard, but in my previous roles as well. My background is that I did my master's in women's studies, and my plan was actually to join a UN organization. It's just that when I got selected for the corporates, I was being encouraged to pick up a job. So I see my master in women's studies actually becoming practical. I mean, nobody thought that this education will actually have so much of value in later period of time. And thankfully, not a lot of feminism has gone into my head, because I feel that every gender is very precious and unique, and we need to have, and each one has its unique place in this world. Currently, I'm doing my master's in psychology, Sindhu. So this was my dream, to do a psychology course. So I'm doing that. And when people hear that I'm doing psychology, they feel that I'm really evaluating them. And that's not the case. It just happens naturally. Personally, I'm into spiritualism. So yes, a lot of time invested in meditation, yoga, and the other thing which I am doing is I'm associated with Catalyst, which is as a mentor, which is working for girls from the lower background, lower income group, and they are associated with with the engineering college like CUEP and Cummins. So I'm a mentor with them. I'm currently also working with She Creates Change, which is part of change.org. So I'm looking forward to see that how can I get an impact in the world. My petition is for recognizing the work for the house helps that come and work at our place. So let's see how it really moves ahead.
Awesome.
About me. Thank you.
Thank you, Shweta. Ravi?
Yeah. Hi, all. A very good morning to you. Firstly, thanks, Avinash and Shanita, for the invite. I think it's a very august, panel, and it's great to know actually everybody here. So, just to give you an intro about myself, I started off as a sales guy, and I moved to recruiting. And for me, recruiting happens by chance. I've been a life insurance agent and a recruiter. Both happen by chance. It's never planned. But as a recruiter with about 17 years now, I think I've had a great run in success. I actually, when Anu was speaking, I was actually seeing myself in what she was saying a lot, because I think talent and recruiting, is something that it's my calling. I'm really passionate about it. And today, of course, I work with Cargill Business Services. It's been a 3.5 year journey with them, and we set up a GIC in India. Cargill Business Services is a multifunction shared service center here, and it's one of the 7 shared service centers in the world. But Bangalore is truly global. We actually cut across multiple functions, and we are setting up some new services as well. Shared services, generally you hear HR, finance, and IT, but we are looking at global ethics and compliance. We are looking at environment, health, and safety. We are looking at administrative services, and a lot more new services that we are championing and setting up in the GIC today. Bangalore has grown to about 3,000 people right now, and we have a small center in Gurgaon as well. So, as an India lead today, I think the biggest challenge I have, or the goal ahead, is to build a future-ready workforce. Certainly, also working on diversity and inclusion. Certainly, all companies are today looking for building diverse teams, and we are also getting there. In fact, our goal is by 2030 to have women representation in our board and stuff like that at leadership levels as well. So there's a lot of traction in Cargill. We are one of the largest privately owned companies in the world, about $110 billion. And of course, not very well known in the market. So employer branding is an important thing for us in India that we are focusing on this year. But yeah, overall, it's been a great run. And, and I also run a spiritual bookstore in Bangalore. It's a small, little, tiny store. I don't know how in HR I feel, especially in this panel, I think everybody is quite aligned to spirituality. I don't know if it's because of the work we do or whatever, we get very aligned to spirituality much faster. I run a spiritual bookstore, and yeah, that's my hobby, passion as well. And yeah, that's a quick intro.
Thank you, Ravi. We have another little offbeat person here. Ashu, I mean, she comes from a different background completely. Ashu, over to you. We can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, thanks, Avinash and Sharvita. Yes, so as you mentioned, Avinash, I am probably out of the whole mix. I come from an engineering background, 2+ decades into engineering programs at various organizations, right now associated with OpenText as Director of Engineering. And my take with talent is really around, I mean, I've been building teams, not just over here in OpenText, but also with companies like HP and Infosys. And at all these 3 companies, I have got multiple projects from scratch. And I think one of the key success factors of having the projects is having the right talent. right? And as I speak, I'm planning to build up a reverse engineering team, right? And these are the people who actually work on the cybersecurity, going deep into the dark web, and these talents are not very easy to find. So while I work with my talent acquisition team, the HR business partner team, I remain very invested in how we are getting talent into the organization, how we groom them. So I think that's my rendezvous with talent, if you have to say. And the other thing which I'm really passionate, I think engineering has a lot more to give and take than what it is today. And I personally believe that each and every individual can contribute quite a bit. To that extent, I have been very active in the Grace Hopper celebration that we do for the last 11 plus years. I'm one of the program chairs of the committee that's there. I've also started in OpenText. I've also lead the DNI initiative and is the presiding officer for the IC group, which is nothing but the POSH. So I do a whole lot of work on the DNI as well as the IC front. But I think for me, the bottom line is how do we get good resources. So I think I personally believe most of the freshers, most of the we have immense talent in India, right? But how do we give them the right direction? How do we get them the right platform so that they can excel, right? And that's where I think my role as an engineering leader comes into picture, where we could groom them and nurture them and get them onto the next level, right? So that we, from an India perspective, drive innovative product development, right? So it's not just talking about MNCs in India, right? It's how do we come to a situation where every nook and corner we see a, engineering or any person, right, innovating products, right? For we call it jugaad in India, but I think it's much more than really jugaad. So I think it's really about how do we do the talent grooming part. So that's about me personally.
Thank you so much, Ashok. Welcome. Sapna.
Hey, hi all. Good morning. I'm so sorry I was a little late. I have all strong symptoms of COVID, so I was just giving a COVID test. I've been really sick and unwell for the last 1 week and today. I've stopped getting to smell or taste, so I just hurried up to do this. Good morning, all. Very nice to meet you all virtually. Would have been great to meet you all in person, but I think time has pushed us to this. I've been a HR person by choice, and have been with the last four stints of mine have been with startups. I think now I've got ingrained to startups so much that I feel very difficult to probably not work with startups anymore, right? So I have pretty much done with health tech, ed tech, and currently with fintech. Probably my next stint I would look for is with an agri-tech. With a country like India with so much complexity, I don't know whether the politics is going to allow agri-tech, but I think that's what I will look forward for. Some things which have really got me, made me feel very happy about what I've done is I built MedLife, which was I was part of the co-founding team, which I built from 30 people to about a 10,000 people plus organization. Was an industry first organization. Most of the things that we did, we had to learn and unlearn and move really fast. All right. So today, if I see the brand from outside, I really feel good, right, about what I built from a 0 to a 750 million valuation and a merger. All of us made a lot of money. The investors made money, the employees made money, and everybody are happy and moving on, right? But I think at the heart of everything, I intend to always go with tech companies, because I believe that most of your larger problems, right, can be solved with tech. But again, I said that I think the problem that each one of us are facing are quality tech talent, right? While there are abundant resources available in India, most of the people are not really job ready, right? They each one of us want to target IITs and ITs. It slows down the process internally, and yeah, I mean, we're working with some really good agencies which can pick and groom talent for us, but not really able to see great traction around that, right? So let's see. I think the talent landscape is going to change, and hopefully we should have good demand supply and not the crisis in here.
Thank you, Sapna. Welcome again. Wow, I mean it's power packed panel here. I mean I'm really hoping to learn a lot from each one of you. Before we jump in, I just want to kind of play a small video to set the context. It's a 1-minute video. Sharnita, over to you.
Sure, Avinash.
India is the second largest market in the world for digital consumers and growing fast. It had 560 million internet subscribers in 2018, twice as many as in 2014. Only China has more. Falling costs have spurred digital adoption. Data costs have dropped by more than 95% since 2013. Government programs have helped too. 1.2 billion Indians have biometric IDs. Many are linked to digital bank accounts. Businesses are also going digital, but adoption is uneven. Every sector has leaders, but also many that are behind. Highly digitized sectors like IT and business process management could double their GDP contribution by 2025. Growth could be even higher for newly digitizing sectors like agriculture, healthcare, retail, logistics, and data-driven lending and insurance. Digital could create up to 65 million new jobs by 2025. But 40 to 45 million others will need to be retrained. Government will need to invest in new infrastructure. Businesses will need to nurture new talent. Workers will need to learn new skills. It's a challenge, but if all stakeholders adapt and gear up, digital can be one of the most inclusive drivers of India's future growth and prosperity.
Yeah, so that's where we are at this point in time. There's great potential, immense potential in India. As per a study by it's a global talent competitive index by INSEAD, it says India secured 72nd place, while last year it was on 80. In terms of talent attraction and in terms of retaining them, we are on 92nd. Switzerland is the first, I think, followed by US and Singapore. So are we doing enough to, say that, are we attracting enough talent? Are we doing enough to brand ourselves as a nation? Saying that we are a global nation today, equal to any other country like a Singapore or, even for that matter, getting closer to other developed, countries. So what we'll do is, we'll talk a little bit about the India story for your organizations, and how do you see it panning out for the next, 5 years or so. With the change now over the last year and this year as well, is the strategy changed completely? What is it that you are looking at when it comes to talent as such? Probably we'll start with Agi.
Hi, thank you so much for that, Avinash. So my initial thoughts, when you read about the survey data, have a different perspective, all right? While I respect INSEAD, I think it's not an apples to apples comparison. To say, okay, Luxembourg has done better than India, now it just doesn't compare in terms of size or volume. But nevertheless, I think the data should help us to push those standards up, in terms of reskilling. Now, what are we doing? Where were we? Okay, let's talk about IBM, with 100,000 people here in India. So today we call ourselves a cloud and analytics and AI company, all right? And just in the midst of a demerger where we are spinning off our services business as a separate entity. You must have read about it. Now, we saw the wave way back in 2015, the move to AI and cloud and digital technologies. And the consumption was so high that we thought that, as we are retraining our workforce and when they come here, then it starts dropping, and then, the clients will start buying more of this stuff. But what actually happened is that the demand came from the client side. And they said, hey, give us more AI, give us more digital, help us with our cloud migration, and things like that, which means that we were, to a large extent, not just we, but the industry or even HR people caught a bit off guard out there and said, hey, suddenly there is this huge demand for reskilling. And I saw it on the horizon, but the pace at which I was going out there to be relevant to the future in terms of skills was a bit long-termish. Whereas what was required was something on demand, which is in time or just in time skilling. Okay, so I really didn't need a PhD person to come and do this, but I had just this much of work. Okay, and I didn't want someone with a very broad perspective on it. So I wanted someone with a narrow definition and knowledge in that, come here, work, and move on to the next one. So the mindset here was also a startup mindset that came in, what I would call the fail fast mindset, all right? Which means that, okay, here's the opportunity, go at it, hammer and tongs, let's do the best out of it. It works, fine, we can grow on it. If it doesn't work, junk it, move on to the next. So what happened here is we started building tolerance for failure in the system. Okay, which was good, because what happens here is when you have tolerance for failure, there is greater empowerment. And with that empowerment came innovation. Okay, so now, not forgetting the elephant in the room, the COVID situation. All right, now we suddenly thought last year, oh gosh, how is all this going to happen? All right, but you know what we did? Knowingly or unknowingly, as HR people and learners and learning professionals, we equipped our people for the perfect storm, all right? And as we built our competencies and skills and things like that, we all knew that, look, we are equipping ourselves to ride that storm when it's going to happen. So March of 2020, though it came as a surprise, it proved that we have a workforce of very high resilience. And as this resilience grew, in 48 hours, we got more than 90,000 people connected, empowered to work. This was just not about plugging in an internet connection. This was about, providing them all the tools that is required for them to be productive. Then comes what is called the duty of care. So as an employer, how do you demonstrate care? Okay. And a lot of these things, with the top one being skills. And as we continue to grow working remote, I would say that learning only went up. Learning continued to grow. People were taking more badges, people were getting more certifications. And I think it was all driven by a sense of, I think, insecurity. And I think it was also about, hey, here is an opportunity, for the IT services industry to do far better than we have done before. And as we were enabling our clients to do this, I think there was a social contract that people were able to resonate with in the company, saying that, hey, what I'm doing, the code I'm writing probably is helping us, increase the efficacy of the vaccine, okay? So we put in front of the industry all our computing power and technology to bring the vaccine out to the market, all right? So people started aligning themselves and resonating with this value that, look, what I am doing is actually solving a problem out there for society. Thank you.
Thank you, Augustus. Yeah, we'll hear from Ashu, her side of the story. Well, you did mention briefly in your introduction.
Yep. So I think the way I see talent, I think within our organization also, I think India is definitely seen as a big talent pool, right? So when you have to have numbers, I think India definitely gives that kind of breadth, right? We're able to quickly hire people, quickly train them, quickly get them on board and get started. I think where really the focus is, can we do the top end work, right? So specifically from an engineering perspective, can the most innovative ideas come from India, right? I think that's the challenge that we are working towards. So I think from a talent perspective, across, I think before the COVID and post-COVID both, I think the talent pool that India provided has definitely been a big part of how OpenText has grown. So OpenText by and large has grown through acquisitions, right, in India. But 2 years back, our CEO came to India and he said that, we would grow to 5,000, 6,000 people. Today, we are 2,500 engineers across Bangalore and Hyderabad. So the talent story, I think the belief in the talent that India has is enormous. Now, this was a little bit threaded by the whole COVID situation, where I think there were doubts in terms of how India would deal with such a pandemic, right? And suddenly last year, we saw the number of requisition coming into India were, getting divided, right? So we are Canadian companies, so there's a boost also on Canadian hiring, right? But 6 months into the pandemic, and I think right from any metrics, right, from a productivity, from a quality, I think India team did much, much better than quite a lot of people. So I think we proved that we were a resilient group. We proved that, while OpenText initially, focused on work from office, I think work from home, moving to work from home, providing the tools, getting all the access, I think didn't really prove a deterrent to how employees worked, right? So that was a big, big success story in terms of how the organization, how the people were adaptable, flexible, and they adjusted quickly to the different norms. And that kind of drew a lot more confidence in the global leadership, right? Especially at the CEO and his leadership team. So 6 months down the line, we are back again in terms of, the growth story in India continues. I think the major challenge, what we really face is, okay, we can get the numbers, right? So it's a quality versus quantity, right? So you have the quantity, how do you get the top edge quality, right? And that's where I think I mentioned that one of the key aspects is how do we groom these people so that we could get that top-notch work out of India, right? So I think we, from a numbers perspective, I think India has all the good stuff, right? I think from a cost perspective, we have the advantage. From number perspective, we have the advantage. From a STEM perspective, we have the advantage. I think where we really need to move is a lot of lateral thinking, a lot of innovative ideas, and the ownership piece. Right. So I would say those three, if we are able to make a real stride, I think India's growth story would be in a different direction. Thanks.
Sindhu?
Yeah, so I was just listening in, and the thoughts that were coming to my mind after I heard Augustus and Ashu is that, 20, 30 years ago, when we looked at the talent market, especially for those who are graduating as engineers, the IT population, right? There was a lot of this American dream and, and all this migration thing that came up, right? Saying that, either as a short-term project or a long-term, I still remember vividly 20 years back, Infosys was one of those, like, Wipro, Infosys, TCS, the big five here, Microsoft. There were all these dream companies people wanted to, and because I was joining Infosys then, I know that how people waited for interviews, even if it like took longer time, because they really wanted to live that American dream, right? From there, 20 years ago, to say that, this is what I want, and that is why I became an engineer, because I want to go settle down in one of these countries. From there, fast forward 2020, we kind of saw something that, like Augustus said, which was unimaginable. I still recall a conversation in one of the early organizations that I worked for, when we talked about 25% of our talent working from home to avoid traffic congestion, stress, to take care of mental well-being of people. The answer was a big no. Infosys 8 years ago or 15 years ago, we had leadership saying telecommuting will never happen in an organization like Infosys, right? We've come a long way from there. COVID has taught us something. One is, of course, resilience in a big way, but more importantly, to say that what used to be called as brain drain earlier is a brain gain today. Today, we are saying that the world is really seen as a flat earth, and whether it is thanks to Zoom, thanks to Microsoft Teams, Blue Jeans, which we used to use at Facebook, any of these platforms, right? Life has become so easier to connect. So now the question is, how are we looking at talent differently? Are we looking at talent to say regionally, geographically, or are we looking at talent from, in terms of skill and talent and competence? Because it doesn't really matter where you're based out of anymore, right? What will of course come into being is the taxation and other things in the European context, but that we will have to deal with. But the fact is, if I have a choice to work from anywhere, then will it really matter where I'm based out of? Or should I just look at the skill and say, if I'm able to get the skill from anywhere around the world, people are all the time connected, except for their sleep hours, they're connected. So work is getting done, and organizations are sharing that their productivity has gone up in 2020, whether it is because of insecurity, whether the pandemic kind of created that kind of emotion in people that they kind of didn't leave their seat from morning till evening. I mean, of course, that led to many other factors of stress and mental health, etc. But that aside, the trust factor in associates have gone up. We know this is not about choice. This is about no choice. People have to work from home because there is no choice. They cannot come to work. So given that the whole the paradigm shift that we have seen from 20 years ago to what happened 8 or 10 years ago to the current reality, I think it's very interesting to see what are organizations thinking of in terms of autonomy, in terms of choices that people can make, right? In terms of trust levels. So what the way I see the whole talent landscape changing is really not about hiring from which geography, relocation, etc. Those things are kind of changing to now, where is the skill available, and how can I enable this talent in order to stay connected, provide them that kind of autonomy that, I don't know if you've read about the 5 levels of autonomy. I know we are probably at a level 2 or level 3 maybe, but to reach nirvana, level 5 will take some time. I don't know which are the organizations which are there, which is really about to say, I'm okay with distributed workforce. I'm okay to have workforce anywhere in the world, provided I get my work done, right? Because if you look at the data, more than 3% of all the people live, that working workforce live outside of their country of their birth. That's research, right? Which means to say that, I am not talking about India versus US versus Singapore versus Switzerland anymore. It is really about skilled workforce and non-skilled workforce that is leading to the organization's outcomes.
Excellent. Thanks for that perspective, Sindhu. Truly appreciate that. Anu, So you heard what Sindhu said. It's about skill and it's not about location, geography, right? While we have close to 30 million Indians, outside of India, I mean, which is of course the lowest hanging fruit for us to, latch on to, right? And explore if they could be possible people, talent that we could target. At Cerner, have you kind of done anything of this sort in terms of trying to attract this talent specifically?
Yeah, so definitely, healthcare information technology is a sunrise industry today, because the world is actually looking for a lot of innovations in healthcare and trying to provide health and care at the shortest time at the best quality. And I think price is immaterial. So in that, because health, I think every code you write is actually going to impact the life of an individual. So today, while there is a price element to it or a cost element to it, definitely the quality of code, the quality of work definitely matters. So what Cerner has done, I think initially when we started, we were looking at India as a location for executing things. You have work and you will execute it. And then we started owning things. Okay, there are modules, there are opportunities that we can take complete ownership. And today, what I'm seeing is we are leading things. So from an execution, ownership to leadership, the journey has been extremely, I think the continuum of journey, transformation has been so sharp and steep and focused that the quality of talent in India has definitely made it realize for a global organization that we can be leaders in what we're doing based out of India. Now, attracting talent from other countries to India is a noble cause. It's a great opportunity, but there is a lot India has to offer. The talent that is available in India. So I was actually in the last 1 week, there was a fresher out of college and he is based out of Middle East and he was looking out for a job across the globe. He's sitting there, they have access to a lot of jobs. And in 2 weeks time, he got 5 calls from companies in Bangalore, startups trying to hire. And he's been there hunting for a job for 2 months. And he said, I've been attending interviews in insurance, entertainment, all these industries, but no opportunities. So the rate of getting a job in India is much higher than any other country. And that is, and then that is, I think any sample that you take, you don't have to worry about what job you're getting into. Now, if you're very specific about the job, definitely there would be time variable that gets into it. But if you're open to work in India, the opportunities are tremendous. Now, if you put a price to your skill, you put a price to your experience, you put a price to all the variables that you have, the scenario changes. But I'm looking at if you are willing to work, India is the best and biggest location. And that is what Cerner has believed in also, to say that, whatever work we have, if this location can take ownership of that work and lead us, then anybody and everybody should be allowed to work. And I'm actually trying to see if there are jobs that India can create for people across the world to be based, where they can do from any part of the world. So I think other than the Nordic countries, none of the countries restrict doing jobs if it is for, when I say job, in addition to your main job, if there are additional deliverables to be met, you definitely can contribute. So if and it does not matter which location you're working. It is about how work can be executed. And in that way, I would say India will definitely lead because of the geographic advantage that we have, the time zone benefits that we have, the quality of talent, the adaptability, the access of Indian engineers to higher education opportunities, the aspirations that they have, and then they come back and they want to work here. Those opportunities are there. So I believe that, since India is considered to be a now I think an evergreen market, and you get paid for your skills, and the price of your job is very competitive. You know, there is no better choice for the world to look at India than any other countries.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. We'll go to Deepayan. Deepayan, you actually look at India and China, right? So if you could just tell us a little bit about you know, the difference in these two countries, and what is it that, you know, China has been doing, and what is it that you think, you know, India can do better or has been doing good?
See, one of the things which I have seen, and our China Center has been up from the last 2.5 years, right? And the way the model what we have been following, that we have always been open for remote work, right? We have prepared ourselves, right? Like for us, it was pretty simple. Like wherever you find great talent, you go and hire, right? Attraction has never been a concern for us, but I think it's more around right now in the COVID situation, it's more around how do you retain people. So I was going through this Mercer data yesterday, and I saw that all the tech companies typically right now, and I'm leaving apart the Googles, Facebooks, and the Microsofts of the world, but typically, let's say the Indian startup ecosystem, the attrition and the retention has gone really high. Like every second person you offer, like either they're trying to compete with Amazon or Facebook or Google, or let's say they're trying to retain. Especially on the China piece, I think their alumni network has been pretty strong, right? I think one of the things what I have seen in India, and I've not seen pretty much, right, is that Chinese, they typically vouch on the very strong referrals, right? Their alumni network is so strong. Even let's say somebody who is a pass out from a Tsinghua or something like that, going to Purdue for masters, like they are, like at some point in time they are bound to come back, right? And that network is so strong that they are easily able to get that talent, right? And especially like in Beijing, and the type of roles they hire, like for us, it's the entire ML piece what China manages right now. That set of people in China is very strong. Like unlike, let's say, if you compare companies like Baidu, WeChat, and stuff like other companies like that, but especially the small players, right? I think that's how they have grown. And still, I think even in the COVID situation, a lot of Chinese nationals prefer to come back to China compared to the Indians right now, because they are not very confident, okay, fine, how the market is in India, right? How volatile the market is. But the quality, if you ask me, compared to the people coming right now during the pandemic situation from US or let's say any other part of the world, right? It can be Singapore or Indonesia, or let's say your Middle East in that sense, or let's South American countries and stuff like that. It's far less compared to the Chinese nationals.
Okay. So Shweta Shukla, so we heard Ashu talk about the scale that, you know, India brings in, right? So is there more than scale you think that, you know, India can bring on the table, and how's it been at MasterCard for you? While yes, I mean, cost arbitrage and, you know, yes, those are factors that India is certainly being right up there. What else do you think India has, you know, brought on the table when it comes to MasterCard? Shweta, you're on mute.
Okay, thanks. So I agree to a point made a couple of minutes ago that India as a landscape has changed a lot. And today, when I look at MasterCard, it is, and looking at the nature of the work, there is a demand for people with niche skills and unique skills, because when we look at the kind of industry we are in, so yes, technology, but we are into payment space. Now, as technology is evolving, naturally the skills or the technology itself is, you know, changing time and again. So the versions are changing; they are becoming much better. It's not a, so yes, I do hear that, and I do agree that there is availability of talent. Now, it depends on the what actually matters for us as an organization, and I'm sure this we are not unique in this space, but it is with others as well. That how what is the quality of that talent? Most of the times we do have lineups. There are people who come up, but the degree to which we need the talent, is it really prepared? And when we say prepared, not just about getting trained, but do they have hands of experience? And why am I saying this is also because the kind of business model we have, not necessarily we could have work given to a vendor, or we could have contingent workers. The workers, MasterCard has most of the workers on the rolls, and we may have limited set of people, but we do need people who are, well qualified, well trained, are qualitative. So I would say that yes, there is no dearth of talent. The quality of talent really makes a lot of difference. In fact, I was having a conversation last week with some people, and the urge to get promoted, or the urge to get into new roles, the kind of market we are becoming, and I mean, other experts can add on this. So what we've seen is that when we look at people outside India, they have spent good amount of time in certain roles, and then they move into another role. In India, we have seen a lot of growth in a short span of time. So we do have people who are young, but they are not well experienced. When I say experienced, in terms of they've handled, and hence we see these challenges of being unable to really perform those roles in a qualitative manner. So that's my take on it.
Thank you, Shweta. Gopi, over to you. Now, India does present its own set of challenges, differences from a geographical, social, cultural, language, etc. At Verizon, Gopi, are you able to hear me? Hello. All right. Do I repeat that, Gopi, for you? You're on mute, actually.
Sorry, I didn't catch that. If you can come again.
Yeah, sorry. So what I was saying is, while India, has its own set of challenges, right from geographical, social, cultural, language, etc. How are some of these challenges being handled, at your end at Verizon? I mean, there are, I think, more than the number of dialects, the number of languages here in India. So there are a whole lot of other challenges as well. So have you, come across these, and how are you kind of mitigating?
I think some of the challenges that I'll talk about I think inclusion is a big challenge, right? As far as India is concerned, we all talk about diversity, but I think inclusion is a big piece, right? That we are really not too much focusing on, right? As corporates, I think when we talk about diversity, we predominantly talk about it in the Western context. If you really look at it closer to home, right? We are very diverse, be it our dialects, be it our socio-cultural, and all of these. How do we adapt some of these while diversity is making sure you're invited to the party, inclusion is how are you included in the party. I think that's how welcome are you into the party. I think that's where the key challenges are. I think one of the things that we did at Verizon is to start off with some of the global programs bought it with a regional context, right? I think big thing today we are talking about discrimination, right? Let's take the example of the racial injustice that happened in the United States. When the corporate wanted to bring a similar program home here in India, I think we had to put our hands up and say, I don't think the people in India would relate to certain examples that we're talking about. I think how can we pick examples around us, right? For example, if you're talking about discrimination, I think most of us practice it. For a simple example is we don't eat out of the plate that our maid eats. To be put it in a very, very layman's context. I think that's where discrimination starts from. I think that's how we need to really start at it. And some of the socio-cultural facts that even at corporates, I think, because of our eating practices, there are a few being predominantly out of 50% of our workforce being in Chennai. I think there is a sense of discomfort eating non-veg and veg next to each other, among the same plates and things like that. I think when you bring those examples and when you are able to connect the purpose to the people, I think you'll be able to see that. Otherwise, just bringing in concepts that are globally acceptable, but with people not relating to some of those is going to be extremely difficult. I think I won't say we've addressed all the challenges. We are on that path, right? Just not inclusion, also in terms of supplier diversity, right? How are we looking at suppliers? How diverse are your suppliers? Do you want to restrict it to, are you really looking at encouraging supplier diversity as well? So these are certain things that we are looking at, coupled with the fact that I think one of the important facets of what we do, and I want to bring this up, is a program called Athena that we run here at India. I think when we took a hard look at ourselves, we ticked all the boxes in terms of diversity, in terms of gender, diversity in terms of people with disabilities. We were able to set up the entire floors, buildings, and then we were recognized number 2 in the entire of India for a disabled-friendly workplace. Then we moved on to LGBT and a few other facets of diversity. But when we looked at it closely, right, one facet that we missed and we acknowledged a couple of years back was how are we really looking at, we as a telecom provider in the US, our product are used by several of our customers. It does not distinguish between rich, poor, gender, age, creed, or color, right? But all the people that in our office came from a certain socio-economic background. I think that, was a big challenge. I think we set out a program called Athena, where we went into the rural households, people with lesser than below poverty line, lesser than a lack of income for a year. We brought around 40 interns into the organization, taught them coding, taught them English, taught them coding, gave them an internship for more than a year's time. At the end of it, we also gave them an opportunity to be picked in by our business groups. For us, that's a big eye-opener in the creativity that they're able to bring in. That also brought in a lot of challenges while running this program, right? For example, I think when you had to go into Orissa, deeper into a tribal place and look at somebody who is qualified as a BSc graduate, here's a company that's telling you, please send your daughter home to Chennai, and we are going to give her 30,000 rupees, right? Nobody is going to trust you just like that. The very fact that we had to take a hard look at relooking at some of our policies, right? For example, we don't give a salary advance, and these people would not travel because they don't have the money to book your ticket, right? They do not have the money to come and look at accommodation unless you pay them the first month's salary. I think addressing some of these challenges are interesting, are out of the box. I think these are all opportunities that I would say. I wouldn't say this, it's just Verizon doing this. A lot of companies, I can talk about Microsoft, a lot of other companies also doing it in different stages, but I think it was really interesting to bring them into our fold. I think that way, and each of our offices have a very distinct culture, right? Be it Chennai, you can look at the moment you land in Chennai, you can look at the way the people work. Hyderabad is a different culture. Bangalore is a different culture. You could see 3 distinct Verizons within Verizon in India itself. So I think it's very different. We acknowledge it, but I think we are also addressing it in whatever little ways we can.
Awesome. Thank you. Jackson, we can hear a little bit about, the semicon space that you are in, and more essentially Marvel.
Sure. So with a semicon space, right? So what happens is at Marvel, mainly as an organization, we have developed organically and also through a lot of when I say acquisitions, right? So when in 2018, when Marvel was just about 200 odd people in India, right, and globally about just about 3,000 people. Today we've doubled ourselves, right? Globally, we are about 6,000 odd people, and then in India, about close to 1,000 odd people. We've had 3 different acquisitions, and the 4th one is coming our way in just about 2 years, right? So we've had people, Avinash, from different cultures, right? Which, like Gopinath rightly said, he's got a variety, different culture of people from different locations. We had from different organizations come in and are getting adapted to Marvel as an organization, and that's when we've been trying hard. We might not be as mature as Verizon now, but then we are just trying to hard to see how we can work inclusively across all these organizations, combined being working as one specific thing called Marvel, right? With that, we've gone through a lot of trainings. We've had our unconscious bias related trainings. We've had a leader who was hired from mainly for an inclusion and diversity culture, right? This is more at the starting stage here at Marvel, right? Versus some other matured organizations across to people who I have as a panel here, right? So
Jackson, more quick question. In terms of talent, landscape in India when it comes to semicon, India is traditionally known for the services space, right? I mean, when it comes to product, when it comes to, niche areas like yourselves, where do you see India?
India has definitely got a lot of talent, right? But then when it's coming to semicon, it's very, very, very specific and super niche, right? There are 2 things why US or any other countries come to India. One is low cost, one is the talent, right? But what I'll probably take a step back and say, but with pandemic, what happened, right? I will say is people wanted to move into a low cost, but the quality, right? We've had the quality, but then are we really targeting the right set of quality from an India market was a bigger challenge. Right. That's mainly from the semicon segment. What I mean by that, right? So I had hiring managers who said during the pandemic, I said, I don't want to hire unless I meet the candidate in person, right? And then a year just passed away. And post which what happened is we've been having a lot of candidates who have been moving into a PIP, right? Performance improvement program, primarily because of the quality of hire. That's again more specific to the talent, what we are looking at here in India versus to what we have in other countries. But we're not going to give up there, right? We know there is always a talent pool available, right? But you cannot get anything and everything in one. If you need a full stack developer, right, you might not get a full stack developer. But then the India talent is such that it is easily trainable and we get there, right? So that's the whole point of India being having talent, which is required, but scalability might take some time, but then you will have it at the end.
Thank you, Jackson.
I hope it made sense.
Sapna, you've been in startups. How do you see, the challenge of talent in startups? I mean, you mentioned that you grew startup, the health tech startup from a zero.
Yes. See, I think with startups getting almost 1 billion investment every week, right? Like Byju's was there last week. Last week was Meesho and Swiggy, right? All the tech companies being funded. Most of us are feeling a crunch, not in the overall talent pool, right? If you would take a tech perspective, the catch is the SDE2 and the SDE3. The SDE1s, SDE4s, SDE leads, the engineering managers, all these folks are there. Right. And previously, the offer to joining ratio for these folks used to be at around 60%, which has now reduced to about 20%. Each of these guys used to have about 3-4 offers before. Currently, with the pandemic and the option of working from anywhere, each of these folks are having about 7 offers, right? So it's nothing to do. It's mostly a candidate-driven market at this level, and everybody is looking into this pool because they are the guys who handle the core production, right? The core the people who are core working on your production, on your bug fixes and things like that. There is where the talent is actually needed. And if you would also see, there is, I mentioned that there's a demand supply crisis, right? There are nearly about 4,000 engineering colleges across India, producing so many engineers, but all these engineers, what they're doing is most of them are studying outdated syllabus. A student today in average engineering college is studying a book which was printed 2 years ago, and that researcher did research about 4 years ago. So ideally what somebody is studying is average about 4-5 years old, right? And if you would actually take the problem, these guys are coming in from either rural or farming background. They do not have access to quality learning tools, right? So there's a lot of associated problems which probably for one to solve it is very, very difficult. It would take its own time to kind of move, to slowly kind of drift from all these things. But I must say, at this level, this is a candidate market, right? And you would see people picking up offers from, I mean, a 20 to 25 lakh guy gets offered 45, 50 lakh. There is no method to madness at these levels, right? None of your compensation benchmarking, nothing is working, especially with your tech talent. With the rest, we do not have, I mean, major issues per se, but I think at this level, yes, we are having. And we have to agree, that this is a candidate-driven market at, this kind of a juncture, right? And not everybody is job ready, even if you're picking folks, from the colleges, and they're not able to work independently. They need at least about 6 to 8 months of hand-holding. Post 6 to 8 months of hand-holding, you do not know. There's a lot of infant attrition happening. People just jump jobs currently, for compensation because it is looking really attractive, right? So probably anybody, or you or me, even with about 3-4 years of experience being fresh engineering graduates, would have done the same probably at that point of time. Right. So, and these folks look at, what great mentoring what are the mentors that they're working with? What are the tech stacks that they're working with? What is the change that they're individually able to make to the product? Right. Are they learning every day? They do not want to, not everybody, who are like really good in tech wants to become a people manager over a point, right? They say it takes our time, we lose being hands-on. We want to be hands-on. We want to be very strong individual contributors, not people managers. So all your, OD strategies also goes for a toss with, when you are handling extremely good performers as well. So I think currently it is a talent-driven market and, not an employer-driven market at this bucket of, folks that we are looking at, and everybody in India is looking at, right? And we also see a lot of, companies, outsourcing their development centers to India. If you would see a lot of Indonesian companies working out of here, right? Blibli, Traveloka, US companies like Y Media, most of them have their development centers out here. So they're just focusing on getting the technology built here, but business is driven from US or any other country, right? And India has always been, I mean, if you would also, one is the talent pool. It's not as expensive as it would be when you would hire from different in a different location, like probably Singapore or Paris or anything like that. But even the real estate is cheaper in India, right? It has always been a $1 market, right? I mean, 10 years before it was about 45, 50 rupees per square feet. Today it is about 75, 80 rupees per square feet, right? Even during the non-COVID time, setting up developments
I guess there's a
and
problem.
building. So I think a lot of us come again.
I guess there's a lag. There's an issue with your internet.
Is it okay now?
Yeah, sounds okay.
Yeah, I think each one of us are targeting these bucket only, right? So it is going to be an issue probably for about 3 or 4 more years till we have new talent, who are going to be more job ready and be in the industry.
So what we're hearing across the board, of course, I mean, there's no question in terms of the potential that India has got across sectors, and across categories of organizations. But however, we see that there is a lot of challenge when it comes to talent, and when it comes to, yes, there is scale, but when it comes to niche skills, when it comes to certain tech, emerging technologies, I'm sure each of your organizations are finding it challenging to bring this kind of talent on board, right? So to dive into our next section, which is the talent story, the HR story, just like to while we spoke about this a little bit in the past, while countries like US and UK attract the best talent, we haven't been, from an employer brand standpoint, we haven't been able to do that. Are we doing enough? Again, is the question. So I throw it open. Probably we start with somebody who's gone, maybe Ravi.
Sure. So yeah, absolutely. I think there is definitely a lot of untapped potential in returning Indians, especially to come and work in roles within India. The reason being, I think some of the core roles, even in a GICs that we look at, right? What happens is, I think some of the skill sets, the softer skill sets we look at, apart from technical ability, is to manage stakeholders, influence stakeholders, work through situations, be respectful about a diverse and an inclusive workforce around the globe. So when some of these become a challenge, and having a vision for the function that they're working in, I think when some of these come into place, I think most of the Indians who have held various roles in different organizations with worked in different geographies or cultures, is certainly a boon, I would say, to come back to India and work. I think the perspectives, it will also improve diversity and inclusion within teams, but it will also give a much greater vision and a greater, I would say, maybe just the direction itself can change over a period of time. So certainly, yeah.
The question is there a structured effort now from organization or at Cargill to kind of look at this?
Yes, we do have a structure. We are actually leveraging global teams. In fact, today, interestingly, we do a lot of language-based hiring. For example, I need talent which comes with Thai, Vietnamese, Bahasa, Portuguese, Spanish speaking ability, along with accounting skills. So what we are kind of piloting is, I have like Cargill's recruiters who are in Thailand, who are in Vietnam. We are looking at if there are any applicants who are Indians who have actually applied to various roles, and how do we really bring them back to India. US, it's a little far cry for us right now, but US and UK is another market we are looking at, especially for technology and leadership skills, largely leadership oriented skills, wherein you have global leadership. For some roles, Cargill is going through the change where we are kind of having a very distributed leadership power center that will get created over Asia and things like that. So in that context, many of the leadership roles that we are building, we are looking at talent across the globe to come and do roles in India largely, and Asia as well. But yes, with complexity, of work that we are doing, I think there is a larger interest towards Indians in these areas to bring back, and there are some structured programs in place.
Excellent. Thank you. So we'll go to Augustus. So Augustus, you've got the width and the depth at IBM, and the challenge is much larger when it's large organizations like yourselves, right? While erstwhile we had mobility programs and stuff. With the pandemic, I'm sure everything is kind of a standstill right now. How are you dealing with it now? And do you see global talent as a great opportunity?
Yeah, thanks, Avinash. So coming back to what I call the new ways of working, right? The new ways of working is not just about technology, but it is about the blurring political boundaries, that divide countries, all right? And how we can make talent universal. So just like I think one of you, I think Gopi said this, right? Where you were going to other countries and getting those language skills and things like that. I think we are doing some things similar. Certain challenges or limitations in terms of how do you hire from some other country, and what are those local laws and legislations that would be applicable to them. Like, for example, if I'm hiring somebody from Europe for a position in India, but the person will be working, let's say, in some country in Europe, and there they have what I would call works councils, all right, which is employee participation, all right. So therefore, if I have to do any change, okay, I need to have the consent of a works council. So if you look at it, there are some downsides that we are faced with, or rather I would say headwinds, typically in terms of getting people to work from a particular geo and deliver to a different particular geo, and therefore what laws are going to be applicable. One challenge, okay, which we are able to overcome to a large extent. The other one, of course, is the workforce models. Okay, now today, if you asked me, our thinking is still, to get that regular employment. Okay, and I think we have to shift from that mindset and say, look, I need somebody for a specific point of time or a period of time, and therefore I should hire that person only for that. Okay. So this model typically is like a gig workforce model, all right? So allow them, okay, today to work with different companies, different projects, but you need to have the right level of contracts in place for data integrity and confidentiality and so on and so forth. So move away from that mindset, because people today want freedom to work from any place, anywhere, anytime, on any technology that they fancy. So organizations should, to a large extent, look at some percentage of this workforce, which should be gig, which should be just in time. And, you're also going to do another thing,
Augustus, sorry, your voice is not clear.
Oh, sorry. I think I'm having a small network issue. Is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So look at this. Career was in the hand of the employee. Today, it's not in the hands of the manager. Today, we don't say that. Career is your responsibility. Here is the money for you to go develop yourself. Okay. To do whatever learning, earn whatever badges and certifications for you to be relevant. And then I'll do a value system. This is more in the future of work and, new ways of working, where we'll say, okay, we'll do a valuation of you, just like I would do a valuation of an IPL cricketer and say, okay, you're worth $100,000. Okay. And therefore, if you want to be $200,000, here are those things that you need to do. And here is the money. So you see this shift where responsibility, empowerment, and all that lies in the hands of the employee. The manager becomes coach and mentor, okay? And the employee runs on his own. Last point, of course, while you were talking about, the talent pool, I think an oft-repeated challenge we've had is the lack of adequate academia support, industry support to academia. We need to have more industry academia support, where industry continues to throw a challenge to the academia and say, here is the business challenge. Put your best people here. Here is some money. Here's an endowment. Okay, go and do it. Now, that is something which has always worked and will continue to work, because India has the youngest workforce in the world today, right? By 2025, 1 out of every 4 working person in the world will be Indian. That's what statistics say. All right. So if we don't continue to focus on that industry academia partnership and drive more endowment over there and bring the challenges of the world into the classroom and into an incubation lab, then we're going to continue to find a gap, and we may not reach that $1 trillion 2025, because you have a huge task of skilling people. And today we are not there. Would we be there in the next 4 years? Depends.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Augustus. Sindhu, Augustus touched upon a little bit about the gig workforce, right? And I'm sure a lot of organizations are, looking at this. So any experience on this that you've had in the past? You want to throw some light on this?
Interesting topic, right? Pick your gig. Imagine every organization having a talent marketplace, which allows, one is democratizing jobs within an organization, similarly outside of the organization, where every employee or individual has a choice based on their skills. Because today we had an introduction of each of the panelists, right? Look at the varied interest each of us on this panel have. There is a spiritual side to you where you're trying to do something. There is a research and career side to you. There is teaching. There is upliftment of society, community work that you want to do. This is alongside your day job, right? Today, it's not about getting, a lot of us are not doing that to get paid for, right? You're doing this in addition to that. It's almost like, you're giving your time without getting paid for it, but you have a sense of accomplishment end of the day. Similarly, today, if I am a co-chair for ISTD Hyderabad chapter, I do a lot of pro bono coaching for a lot of people. I do go to educational institutions and talk to people about careers and the choices, and all this is outside of my work, right? But what if there was a choice given? Today, I don't want to risk it, right? So I want to I want that security of a day job, and everything else, area of passion, is something that I would do outside. But the generations, that is, at least my nephews and nieces are not talking that language. For them, it is about, can I do 2 or 3 jobs where I'm, 3 hours here, 4 hours there, and 3 hours there. And that can go on till midnight. It depends on how many hours I want to sleep. But the idea is that they are multi-skilled in that sense, or multi-passioned, if there is a word like that. They want to explore and benefit from all these areas. So I think if organizations don't embrace the gig economy or the gig workforce and the concept of gig early enough, the world will move and you will be one of those who will have to do a catch up. So how do you create that kind of an environment within the organization is what I think will be our first bet before we actually ask for the industry or the economy to change.
Thank you, Sindhu. Ashu, we'll go a little bit deeper in terms of, the technologies and, areas that you think there are certain, there is talent and areas where you think there are challenges from an India standpoint, right? So you've kind of been in the tech space for a long time now, and you've kind of seen the change that has happened. So if you could just tell us a little bit about the technologies and, I mean, how is this kind of going to pan out in the future?
I think technology is one of the things which is changing very rapidly, right? Coming from different stacks that we say, right, right from C, C++ to Java, Python. I think that there's a whole range of technology that we really work on. Having said that, I think as the products have been developed over 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, right? The product itself is a culmination of multiple technology stacks. Okay, so today we are not talking about one product on one particular stack only, right? Having said that, I would really say that the focus for each and every group, right, engineering area, is how do we simplify? How do we simplify things, right? If you take like Java or other technologies, at some point it becomes complicated. But if you look at like the Python, right, we had written off Python in 90s, right, saying that that's not going to be really there. Today you see Python is reinvigorated, and the whole idea why Python has come back with a big bang is it's simple, right? So I think from a technology perspective, I think a lot of technologies are coming on, but the whole core point is how do we make it simple for coders to code it, simple for people to understand it, simple for the products to be deployed, simple for the customers to be accessing it, right? So I think the whole focus is how do we get simplified, right? Things simplify, and I think the technology, which technology makes that possible, I think the focus goes over there. And I think this is where the gig people really help, because it's not just one technology on which you're going to be focusing entire your career, right? Even if we focus like a person wants to be on the technical ladder, they want to become like a principal architect, distinguished architect, being just on one technology doesn't work out, right? So individual also moves on from technology to technology, right? And I think that's something which I think in India we definitely have an advantage. The way people, all the technologists, I think move from one technology to another technologies, and I think the organizations enable that. People, the certification, the badges, I think these go a long way in helping that transition. But I think India definitely has seen that a senior technical resource who is a culmination of multiple technologies. He can talk Java at the same expertise with what he talks on C# and C++ technology. I myself have few architects who are pretty well versed with all these technologies, right? Put them into any technology, give them 2 months, they can get down to the bottom of it, and they are up and running. So I would say from a technology perspective, this is one of the biggest advantage we have, right? We are flexible, we are adaptable to whichever. It's not about like, okay, I just want to be with C#, right? It's not about I just want to be on the Java stack and I'm not going to work on something else. So that's why you see this whole full stack developer role pretty much very popular, right? It's very difficult to find, but it's very popular in India, right? Because you are looking at the gamut of all kind of skill set, right? Right from the database till the UI, right? So I would say, yes, technology is definitely there. We have to keep up with the technology, but I think at the end of the day, the technology which is going to really succeed is simplification, right? I think that would really be the core essence.
So what I'm hearing, Ashu, you're saying that there is depth, there is adaptability, but when it comes to the demand supply side, do we have enough? Will the supply meet the demand? I mean, I kind of
There's a gap. So I would say there's a gap. And I think the reason why there's a gap is, I think someone did mention earlier, we started from an execution to ownership to leading, right? And these are not technological really a thing, right? To become a thought leader in the area, right? A lot of risk factor, right? A lot of other things goes in rather than just the technological expertise, right? And I think I mentioned about the grooming part, right, of people. So I think, execution requires anyone who knows something, right? Owning requires a little bit of ahead thinking, little bit of visioning, little bit of thought leadership, right? Whereas, leading in the areas is really being an expertise, SME, right? And also, putting your neck out there and saying that, okay, this is what matters and this is what it is, right? So I think it's not just a technological thing. I think it also deals with the kind of risk, the kind of ownership, the kind of value, individual can create for an organization. I think those things also starts coming in. And I think ownership or leading doesn't come just, because you are an expert, you can do things well, right? It's also about, even if you're not able to do things, but, if you're able to fail fast, get back, I think that's also a big thing. No one is expecting you to do the things right first time, right? But over a period of time, can you demonstrate that trust in terms of what you do is of high-notch quality? Yes, we could do that.
Anu, you've been wanting to say something.
No, I was actually looking at what Ashu was telling and Sindhu was telling and trying to culminate both of these things. I think, the question that you asked, Avinash, is there a supply issue? Definitely there is a supply issue. Like what Ashu said, that the depth and breadth is not universally available talent today. And that is actually keeping us all on the toes, that we're not able to do our job at the best of our capabilities, because the supply itself has a problem. Now, where is the problem with the supply? Let's say our education, let's start from the education itself. Now, let's look at an example of somebody wants to get an admission in a US university. Let's look at somebody who's like finished the 12th and wanting to get into a college there. They look at a holistic experience. They look at your experience in sports, they look at your experience in arts, they look at your experience in multiple technologies. And if you've done some, coding challenge, or you've been actually having a YouTube channel, you're trying to be an influencer, etc. And that is how they get talent in to do a program. Now, what's the case in India? It's just one assessment. You do your JEE, or you do your entrance exam, and then you're in. And then where is the value for? And then where is the value for alternate methods or alternate channels of acquiring knowledge? There's no incentive. So then you are actually into the channel of education, and you go through your academic outcome. And if you are interested, so if you go and look at a resume today from any of the top tech schools, they are writing more about their club memberships than their technical skills. I've been part of that dance club, I've been part of this club, that club. How much of technology did you do? 1/10 of my work is actually technology. But what does the industry want? 9 on 10. So there is a huge gap between. And then go and look at the supply itself in the market. Companies are looking at specialized job only. You are a Java developer, you're born as a developer, as long as you can survive Java for like 20-25 years, be there. And if you want to do anything additional, it's at your risk, because there's no incentive. Now, I think there are 2-3 things that I would want to bring in. One is, there's a big change that is required from the entry level itself to bring diversity into developing skills and capabilities. Like what Sindhu brought up, a great point, that individuals today want to just work 3 hours in this area because that's how they've been brought up. They have that choice. You don't want your child to sit at home and just do one chapter. I think being a mother, I know there is a White Hat Junior calling me, there is a QMath calling me, there is this calling me, because they're trying to bring children in all these things. But my only question is, what will they do after some time? Because organizations want only one type of skill. So then where are they applying? So I think while there are opportunities for developing supply, it is not channelized well, and hence that is one area that requires improvement. Organizations also should at least I think it's the right time to change at least 10 to 20% of the workforce totally a mobile which is, it is a free world, and we should have programs and processes and systems to allow that kind of free talent movement, where there are no barriers of anybody to come and code. Anybody, from HR, I've been born as a talent hunter, and I will probably die as a talent hunter. I cannot do anything else because I've been tagged as somebody like that. But I like to do coding. When will I ever do coding? I've learned something. So I think organizations should also give opportunities for people from other technologies, other jobs, etc., to come and try out some of these additional learnings and apply in the job itself. And there should be some provision. I know it might be sounding like an utopian idea, but definitely there is a steep change that is required in the way we look at how talent has to be engaged. And the third thing is careers have become boundaryless. I think that's what even all the researchers say, that it's a boundaryless world. But organizations have not thought anything beyond their boundaries even today. For example, I want to get into a conversation with IBM and say, hey, I want to incubate, or let's say OpenText, and say, I want to incubate something like this. There's so many IP rules, all of these, which is actually preventing me. And then how can I expect talent to have, even if we are sitting in the same tech park, if I want to get into another organization and have like a networking event, there are so many restrictions. While I understand India is the secure country where data and everything is kept secure, but that is actually a barrier for talent and skill exchanges. So, these are all the needs of the hour. And I know it can't happen overnight, but definitely a 10%, 20% change in the employment models can actually, manage some of the problems that we have otherwise, or attrition. And I think the talent model itself, attrition is 5 years from now, the company which has the highest attrition will be the best company, for all you know, because you're not bothered about when people come in and how people leave, because you're ultimately allowing somebody to give to contribute to some work, and then your work is getting done. So I think maybe, when you look at future of work, it is actually talk about what works get done, how it gets done, where it gets done, who does it. It actually doesn't matter. And today we're talking about people not looking at qualification to hire. And that's the most progressive organization in the world. So my whole point is the supply and demand challenge is a reality, and it's been there for long. The intricacies were different earlier, and it's different today. And the world requires a total change in the workplace itself to manage some of these supply challenges, so that at least we can see some bit of change in the next 5 years. Otherwise, we will keep talking about fighting for the same Java candidate for like 10 years, but the candidate wants something else. So that is my contribution to this whole debate.
Thank you, Anu. Shweta, you've been also wanting to contribute here.
Yeah, so I really agree to what Anu says. I do see organizations making an attempt in terms of upskilling. So in MasterCard, what we do is that when we see there are legacy skills, we basically ensure that people get an opportunity to upskill themselves and get into the upcoming skills or the future skills. At the same time, we are able to gauge how the individual is doing, so that we can kind of line them up as and when the opportunities occur. So, there's a career transition within the organization rather than they getting lured externally. The other aspect is that, yes, I do see that there are organizations who are making an attempt to really go to the colleges and kind of contribute towards the syllabus. I believe Anu mentioned that what we are doing is really very old syllabus, and I believe Sapna also mentioned the same thing. But I feel that has to be more work related to. Today, when we hire from IITs, yes, they have learned Java, but the whole point is what beyond Java. It's not limited to Java. That's the basic that they have been given. Unless and until the student shows the interest, the college is really not investing. And I feel as companies or organizations, we need to come together to push towards the change in the education system. It's not just about, for example, I'm in XYZ organization. I feel there's a problem. I will liaise with the college and say that, we have frequent campus visitors or hires from your place. We will start from third year or maybe second year based on our needs. But it is about the entire industry coming together and kind of, working with the government, and the private, at least maybe we can influence the private engineering colleges. How could we emphasize on changing the syllabus, which could make it more, and also that syllabus has to change as per the needs, because we are in a dynamic and a volatile world. So we have to keep on changing that. So how can we influence the educational institutions becomes a very, very important aspect. And the last one, yes, there has to be different ways of hiring. It can't be the way we have been doing in the last couple of years. We have to be more thoughtful, and yes, organizations need to provide opportunities for not only upskilling, but once they get upskilled, they get absorbed within the organization. That's what I just wanted to add.
Thank you, Shweta. In fact, I guess we're just 5 minutes away to close our session. In the interest of time, we will just do one last word from each of you. So essentially, we are trying to do our bit in terms of opening up, on the global canvas when it comes to talent, and trying to see how we can structure channelizing, talent that could be looked at, because there is a gap, huge gap here, and how can we try and channelize and get that talent to you folks? I mean, that's the idea. We're trying to do our bit. We seek your support, the industry support, come forward and support us in this. So we'll go around the table. We'll start with Gopi first, last round in terms, and also if you have any success stories of anything that you've done that is kind of really helped when it comes to global talent, or when it comes to people that have come, made that impact, you could probably share that quickly. 30 seconds, 1 minute probably, each one of you. Gopi.
So I'll be honest, we don't have a success story like that. All the global talent that we have hired is, unfortunately for us, has been a huge contrast in the work culture, because India has a very different culture to the US culture. I think people who spend a lot of time, unfortunately, are unable to cope and would like to go back. I think I don't think we are a good example there. Nonetheless, we are open to talent. I think we are definitely looking at talent migration. I think currently we are moving our base from Hong Kong to Singapore and a couple of things like that. I think I agree with Augustus when he spoke about the work councils and other things. It's a huge challenge, I think, in that sense. But I would only sum it up to say, for me, talent, I think the 3 ways that I would address talent to have a highly engaged workforce. And I'll borrow from Dan Ping to say mastery, autonomy, and purpose. I think as an organization, if you're able to provide the opportunity for somebody to master something, and autonomy to work on what they choose to work on, and today's younger workforce predominantly, I think, is looking at a value proposition and a purpose to which they're connected. I think if we are able to do all the 3, I think we should be able to address most of the gaps that we're talking about.
You're on mute.
Ravi, I'm sorry. Ravi, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sorry. Yeah, so essentially there is definitely a need for, talent that is coming across the world into India for the needs of the growing ecosystem within India. And of course, from a success story point of view, I think we do have a couple of stories with respect to, again, either they're skill based, but nothing that that has delivered an impact at a leadership level yet. Though we do have, like our current chairman in APAC is the ex-CFO, right, who's moved internally from Cargill in the US to lead our focus on APAC. So, and he has delivered kind of impact that we are building. We are venturing into new areas and things like that. So while that is a story that we can use, but I think largely from a skill and leadership point of view, there is certainly great scope, and I would say I'm very bullish about this talent group that needs to come back to India and deliver some great results for us. I think there is, for me at least, in Kargil, the work has just begun for us. We are just a four-year-old shared service center now, and there's a lot of action ahead of us. While Kargil as a company has been there, I think shared services is a completely different ball game, and so on. So yeah, certainly with respect to global talent need, I can say that there is a lot of work ahead for everyone in every industry. Actually, it will become very important to look at talent from other regions.
Thank you, Ravi. Deepayan?
I think for us, there are two things, right? I think, and I was listening to that talent piece where gigs and all, right? I think that's something. See, we Indians, right? We typically look at a very product-first company, right? We have never branded ourselves as, and not the traditional B2B or enterprise companies, but typically the set of people we are, like the companies we are into right now, right? We have to present ourselves as engineering-first company, right? From a success story point of view, yes, I think the majorly, there are people who definitely don't like the way we work, right? Because the pace is very high and stuff like that. But I think a majority of, I will say, talent workforce, right? I think 30% of the workforce have been migrated from these areas, right? Be it from Singapore or Indonesia or let's say Bay Area, right? And we have always branded ourselves as engineering first, right? So product will never overpower engineering, or neither engineering will overpower product, right? And that's where the skill gap comes, right? We talk about Java, this, that, and all those things, right? And one of the things what is very important to understand that, see, upskilling is different. Having that curiousness attitude and having that continuous improvement thing is important. You can tell any developer that, okay, fine, you learn Java, you learn Golang, this, that, and blah, blah, blah. You can do that. You can deliver. But what are you trying to say, right? Are you trying to hit for execution excellence or engineering excellence, right? And that's what we have been doing, right? We are a company where we talk about engineering excellence. We are not talking about executional excellence. And that has been always our mantra, let's say, whenever we are trying to poach talent from any part of the world. Even we had workers in Ukraine and Russia, right, who helped us deliver the first IPL. And that has been a huge hit. So I think we have always been with that mentality that we'll find great talent wherever we want to. Location shouldn't be a constraint for us.
Thank you, Deepayan. Sapna, quickly, last 30 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, as said, in all the industries that I have worked with, right, talent has always been, a very talent acquisition, right, especially has been a very difficult thing to kind of swindle on, right? Once you get the talent, management has been easier. I think we will continue to get good people on board. The challenge will still persist, as said before, right? So let's see how we can go. But I wouldn't say, there's some success stories that we changed around and, did some great things. No, it wouldn't happen overnight. It would take some time.
Thank you so much, Sapna. It was wonderful having a few. In fact, we've run out of time, and that's why people, kind of had to log off. We'll keep this dialogue open. We, in fact, have a leaders exchange group. It's by choice. I mean, if you intend to be a part of that group, we'll send you a link of that. You can, add yourself onto that group. Also, we will send you a note on this entire discussion so that you kind of know what's happened through the through the 2 hours. Now, Gopi, Deepayan, Sapna, thank you so much again for joining.
Thank you. You all have a great day. Please keep safe. Bye.
Thank you, Gopi. Thank you.
Bye.